Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're tearing into a really robust self-study guide that was shared with us. It's
And this guide is fascinating because it starts by just acknowledging a really painful reality.
mm,
The source material points out this huge structural barrier that so many people in Sri Lanka face. This, inability to confidently speak or write in English.
and it's not just an academic thing, is it?
No, not at all. They make it really clear this is a career issue. This
Okay.
language barrier is actively, blocking people from global jobs, from top-tier education, and even just feeling confident when they travel.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're skipping the fluff, going straight to the core strategies, the grammatical architecture, and the mindset you need.
Hmm.
We want to give you the exact framework the guide calls the foundation.
Exactly. It's about figuring out those non-negotiable elements that take you from just being a passive reader of English to an active, confident user.
Let's start with the big picture then, the why.
Go.
Why does this guide frame learning English as such an urgent thing?
It's all about access. It's purely practical. The sources just hammer this point. Home English is the language for global business, for science, for tech,
For the internet.
for almost the entire internet, yeah. So if you want total access to information, whether it's a research paper or just global news, English is basically the key.
And that access, it translates directly into real-world opportunities?
Absolutely. It's not a nice-to-have skill anymore. The guide is very clear. Fluency opens doors, better jobs, higher education,
Yeah.
but it also mentions something about personal development, which I thought was interesting.
Oh, so?
It connects knowing the language directly to self-confidence. When you can tap into all this information online, you just naturally get a broader perspective. You don't feel walled off from the global conversation anymore.
That's a huge motivator. But, motivation can disappear pretty fast when the grammar gets tough. What does the guide say about the actual process? What are the non-negotiables for self-study?
Well, the biggest enemy for anyone studying alone is just inertia, doing nothing. So the guide's #1 rule is consistency is key.
Okay.
It's not just a suggestion. It mandates that you set aside specific, protected time every single day. No excuses.
But isn't that just generic advice? I mean, we've all heard study every day.
We have, but it's the context that matters. The guide understands you're moving from a very structured school system to being on your own. Consistency creates that structure for you. And right alongside that is rule #2, active involvement.
Which means not just reading.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Reading silently is, it's basically useless according to this. You have to speak the words aloud. You have to write your own sentences. You have to try to have conversations, even with yourself.
That's where the fear comes in, though.
It is. And that's why I love that the source gives you explicit permission. It literally says, do not be afraid to make mistakes. Learning from them is part of the process. You need that permission to fail,
That idea, embracing your errors, seems like the perfect bridge to the next level, which the guide calls immersion.
Right. And they mean total immersion.
So what does that look like?
It's simple, but it's powerful. Change the language on your phone to English. All your devices. Watch English TV shows, listen to English podcasts. It's about turning your downtime into study time.
So English becomes the default setting for your life. That's a real commitment.
It is. And the last piece of that puzzle is finding someone to talk to. A language partner, a native speaker, anyone.
Because just consuming the language isn't enough.
Not even close. You have to road test what you're learning. You have to turn those rules in your head into actual fluid communication.
Okay, let's shift from the mindset to the architecture, the actual building blocks. And we have to start with phonetics, right? That's where the first big hurdle is.
It really is. The guide starts with the absolute basics. The 26 letters, vowels, consonants. We'll assume you know that. The crucial insight here is the phonetic difference.
Unpack that for us.
Well, in English, one letter does not always equal one sound. That's totally different from Sinhala, and it's a massive stumbling block.
Give us a clear example of that.
Okay, let's just take the letter A. Think of the A in the word cat. It's a short, sharp sound. Cat.
Right.
Now think of the A in car. It's a long, open sound. Co-stamp letter, completely different sound. It means you absolutely have to listen and mimic, which connects right back to that immersion strategy.
That's so important. Okay, so from sounds to words, let's talk parts of speech. We can skip the definition of a noun. What's the one rule the guide says you have to master for accuracy?
Capitalization. It's all about common nouns, like city, versus proper nouns, like Colombo.
And the rule is?
The rule you have to burn into your brain is that proper nouns always start with a capital letter. Always. It's a structural habit you have to build from day one.
Okay. From nouns to pronouns, the replacement words, the guide breaks them down into two types.
Yes, and it's a critical distinction. You have subject pronouns and object pronouns. The subject is the one doing the action. He is a student.
And the object receives the action.
Exactly. She saw him. You have to know if the word is the doer or the receiver. Otherwise, you get sentences like, him saw she, which immediately flags you as a beginner.
Now we get to what the guide presents as the absolute cornerstone of English, the verb to be. Why is this one verb so important?
Because you can't avoid it. It's how you describe a state, a condition, a location, anything. I am, you are, he is, we are, they are. Those 5 forms are the starting point for describing almost everything.
And that brings us to the simple present tense for habits and general truths. There's a tiny little error here that trips up almost everyone.
The infamous S.
Yeah.
It's one of the most important habits to build. The rule is simple, but it's so easy to forget. If your subject is I, you, we, or they, you just use the base verb, they play football. But if the subject is he, she, or it, third person singular, you absolutely must add an S or S. She plays football. Forgetting that S is the signature mistake.
Okay, so let's zoom out from single words and look at how we build sentences. This is the big one. English uses a strict subject-verb-object structure, SVO.
And for a Sinhala speaker, this is maybe the single biggest mental shift you have to make.
Because Sinhala is typically SOV, right? Subject, object, verb.
Exactly. You're used to putting the verb at the very end of the sentence. In English, you can't do that. The subject does the action and the verb comes right after. She, S, eats, V, an apple, O. That SVO framework is the core difference you have to internalize.
So the challenge isn't just knowing the structure, it's actively fighting your native language's structure.
Yes, but that rigidity is also a good thing. It's stable. Once you nail SVO, you can start adding descriptive layers like adjectives and adverbs.
Right, so adjectives describe nouns, and their placement is key. They come before the noun, like a tall man.
Or after the verb to be. He is tall.
And adverbs modify the action. They tell us how, when, or where. Like in here, he runs quickly.
And they can also modify adjectives themselves. Think about the word very in. She is very beautiful. Just adds another layer of detail onto that core SVO sentence.
Now we get to the tricky little words. The glue articles and prepositions.
Ah, yes. An and the. The difference between a and an is pretty simple. It's just about the sound that follows. A book, an apple.
But the real challenge isn't a versus an, is it? It's knowing when to use the.
That's the conceptual hurdle. It's about definite versus indefinite. The end's for something specific or something you've already mentioned. The guy has a perfect example. I saw a dog. That's any dog.
Indefinite.
Right. Then the dog was barking. Now, we mean that specific dog I just told you about. Mastering that shift from general to specific is huge.
And prepositions, words like in, on, at, they just give us context for time and place.
They're the small words that can change the entire meaning of a sentence.
So we've built a statement. How does the guide tackle asking questions and making negatives?
It gives you a very clear structural rule. For a yes-no question, you have to start the sentence with the auxiliary verb or the to be verb.
You can't just raise your tone at the end.
No. You have to flip the structure. It's not you are happy, it's so you have. It's not you like coffee, it's do you like coffee.
That inversion is fundamental. And for negatives.
Even simpler. You just insert the word not right after that auxiliary or to be verb. I am not happy. They do not like coffee. Master those two, and you can suddenly do so much more than just make statements.
Okay, so we have the structure. Now the guide shifts focus to what really matters, actually using it. The next section is all about immediate, practical application.
Yes, this is the survival toolkit. The focus is on the vocabulary you're going to need on day one.
Things like greetings.
Right. Good morning, nice to meet you. Basic family terms, mother, sister.
Yeah.
And concepts of time and quantity, days of the week, numbers.
These aren't abstract ideas. They're the words you need to function immediately. And then the guide provides actual conversational scripts or patterns.
Yes, situational language. Scaffolding to give you confidence. For example, when asking for directions, it tells you to start with, to get attention, then use the phrase, how can I get to?
And to listen for key words like turn left or turn right.
Exactly. Or if you're shopping, you only need a few key phrases. How much is this?
Can I try this on?
And finally, I'll take it. These templates stop you from freezing up in a real situation.
And it's the same for ordering food, right?
It is. Master the polite form I'd like. Learn to ask for a suggestion with, what do you recommend? and know how to close the interaction with the bill, please. The point is to show you that the grammar you learned isn't just theory, it has immediate power.
So when we put it all together, what does it all mean? It seems like the foundation is built on three pillars. First, mastering that strict SVO sentence structure.
And overriding your native SOV habit.
Yes. Second, mastering the verb to be. And third, making that crucial commitment to immersion and being okay with making mistakes.
That's it. The guide is so smart because it tackles the structural barrier head-on. It understands the challenge isn't necessarily the concepts themselves, but the rigid, mandatory nature of English grammar, especially SVO and that little aces on verbs.
And by mastering those few core rules and some practical vocabulary, you get immediate usable skills.
Which builds confidence, which fuels more learning. It's a positive feedback loop.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to think about. The guide strongly recommends you change your phone's language setting to English, watch English shows, and totally immerse your tech environment. So, if learning is your main goal, and you do that right now, what is the single most immediate communication challenge you'll face? What's the one vocabulary word or grammar rule that instantly stops you from being able to use your own phone? The answer to that question will tell you exactly what you need to work on next.